Tonight from the Tokyo Olympics, after the first full day of competition, the stands are empty, but the competition is full throttle. The U.S. shut out of medals on day one, but the women's soccer team comes roaring back with a commanding win. Now all eyes turn to the pool and Katie Ledecky. American swimmers already off to a strong start. Athletes also competing against COVID. A beach volleyball match canceled after a player tests positive. Winners putting medals on themselves for the first time. Back in the U.S., will you need a third shot? The new report that the Biden administration is considering a booster shot for at-risk Americans as more cities implement mask mandates. What is behind the rise in breakthrough cases? 20% of L.A.'s COVID cases now among the vaccinated. What you need to know. The Western mega fire exploding in size. Firefighters forced to drive through flames, smoke making it all the way to the East Coast. Fast-moving floods in Arizona. Stranded drivers rescued by air.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt. Reporting tonight from Tokyo.
Hello from Tokyo, where at long last Olympic competition is in full swing. The first medals being awarded. Team USA anxious to get on the medal count board. All the athletes quickly adjusting to competing in front of empty seats and without the reassuring cheers from family. Though in some instances, USA athletes taking up the cheering role for fellow Americans. As expected, COVID still rewriting the competition schedule here as another positive test in the athlete ranks forces an event cancellation. The Olympics primetime host Mike Tirico. Mike, how are the athletes handling this new normal?
I think they're getting used to it, Lester, because they got used to it in training and when the Olympics were delayed for a year. I think we're seeing also a lot of the Olympians be very careful in their interactions in the Olympic Village compared to maybe other Olympics.
You guys have a big primetime lineup. What are we looking at tonight?
We're going to see swimming. I was over at the swimming competition earlier. A lot of atmosphere in there with teammates creating the atmosphere. So a lot of the other USA swimmers will be rooting the U.S. on in the pool, probably early chances for a medal. And skateboarding makes its Olympic debut. It'll be fun to see a new generation come to the Olympic stage.
You got a busy night. Thanks for stopping by, Mike.
My pleasure, Lester.
And our primetime coverage of the Tokyo Olympics begins at 8 p.m. Eastern right here on NBC. Back in the U.S., there is increasing concern over how to end the surge in COVID cases, fueling new conversations inside the White House about whether some will need a vaccine booster shot. Here's Kathy Park.
Tonight, a sharp shift on booster shots from the White House. The New York Times reporting senior health officials are considering an extra dose for at-risk Americans, plus those 65 and older.
As long as the world is not fully vaccinated, this virus will continue to replicate and mutate, and it increases the chances that we will need a regular vaccine series.
This week, independent advisors to the CDC urged federal regulators to move quickly on a decision for a booster, saying people with weakened immune systems have a higher chance of breakthrough infections. While the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines await full FDA approval, the CDC may be working around that. The chief medical officer on the COVID-19 vaccine task force saying they're looking at ways to provide early access to a booster shot. The administration previously saying there wasn't enough evidence for boosters. Nationwide, the numbers keep climbing. The 7-day average for new infections is up more than 50% from last week. In hard-hit Missouri, cases shot up 70% in just 2 weeks. Researchers say the Delta variant is fueling the surge.
The UK variant was the most contagious virus we had ever seen. It took over the entire state in 3 months. The Delta variant did that in 3 weeks.
Some hospitals in the state are treating unvaccinated COVID patients for a second time.
Patients who had COVID last year getting reinfected this year, and some of them are getting admitted in the hospital.
To slow the spread, St. Louis will reimpose an indoor mask mandate starting Monday. The NFL also doubling down, with fallout from the announcement that teams could face forfeits for COVID outbreaks among unvaccinated players. A coach for the Minnesota Vikings and the New England Patriots reportedly out for reasons related to the new guidelines.
And with training camp about to get underway, the NFL's medical director says that 80% of the players have received at least one dose of the vaccine. Lester?
Kathy Park, thank you. There are a growing number of so-called breakthrough cases. These are cases where people who are fully vaccinated are now testing positive, some getting sick. Here's Vaughn Hilliard with why it's happening and what you should know.
The headlines, unexpected. 7 vaccinated Stanford students, positive for COVID. 6 vaccinated Texas Democrats, traveling together, positive. And hundreds of Cape Cod residents and vacationers, vaccinated but positive.
These are headlines that make us stop and think, where is this going?
Public health officials agree. If you're fully vaccinated, you almost certainly won't be hospitalized or die from COVID.
The numbers of people who get infected with serious illness or who are dying from COVID-19 after being vaccinated is extremely low, really low.
Look at these numbers in LA County alone. 20% of confirmed cases were breakthrough cases, but less than 0.01% of those vaccinated have been hospitalized. But why are we seeing so many cases now?
Delta has turned our streets into a NASCAR track to levels 1,000 times what the early virus would have gotten to in people's airways and their blood.
And just how sick do those who are vaccinated get?
My legs were still feeling a little bit weak, and I was dizzy and just totally fatigued at this point.
Hannah Fullerton is fully vaccinated. She was sick for more than a week. How many vaccinated people are getting sick?
It'd be really hard to know. We're not really doing enough testing to fully appreciate how many people who have been vaccinated have asymptomatic infection.
The CDC has not changed its guidance for those vaccinated, but experts are making their own risk assessments.
Even if you're vaccinated, I would really advise that you continue wearing a mask indoors.
If one were to get infected, having been vaccinated, one is very likely to have mild disease, more like a standard flu or a bad cold. So I'm not living in fear of the Delta variant.
Evolving advice as the virus evolves. Vaughn Hilliard, NBC News.
New COVID restrictions across parts of Europe and in Australia ignited mass protests today. In France, crowds clashed with police, angry over the government's upcoming mandate requiring vaccinations or a negative COVID test to access most public venues. And in Australia, thousands marched for freedom from the country's strict lockdown rules amid a resurgence of the virus there. A dangerous mega fire in California is getting bigger. It's now one of dozens of wildfires destroying land and upending lives in the region. Its impact even being felt thousands of miles away. Guad Venegas reports.
Firefighters escaping deadly flames from the Tamarack fire near South Lake Tahoe, California, just in time.
You seeing that, Brandon?
A giant fire whirl caught on camera. Just one of the 86 wildfires across the West, destroying homes, damaging critical infrastructure, and forcing thousands to evacuate. Governor Gavin Newsom declaring a state of emergency in 4 counties, with flames crossing into Nevada and the Dixie Fire near Paradise, California, exploding into a mega fire, consuming more than 100,000 acres.
It's scary. I've never been through anything like this.
In neighboring Oregon, things are worse. The Bootleg Fire consuming over 400,000 acres.
There's still several thousand people that are threatened by the fire.
And this is all drier than usual?
Sure, yeah. I mean, everything's drier than usual. We're seeing on the Dixie Fire, it's primarily a fuel-driven fire.
The smoke smothering the entire country. NASA releasing this image Friday, fumes again reaching the East Coast. Thousands of firefighters working around the clock, saving lives remains the priority.
We grabbed as much as we could and got out. Didn't have much time, but we got out alive, so that's what matters.
Out of control wildfires now the norm as global warming continues to pose a threat. Guad Venegas, NBC News.
Staying in the West, and the fierce summer monsoons dumping heavy rain on parts of Arizona, creating dangerous conditions. Here you see a chopper crew rescuing stranded drivers outside Phoenix after they got stuck driving through high water. And there is historic and deadly flooding in India. A desperate search for survivors is underway in the western part of the country following storms that triggered massive mudslides. The floods washed out homes and hillsides, killing at least 130 people. 90,000 others were evacuated. That's Nightly News for this Saturday. We'll see you back here tomorrow night. I'm Lester Holt. Please take care of yourself and each other. Good night, everyone. Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.